Hello and welcome to my channel. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to talk a little bit about Brusho this morning and about reactivating it. I did this little sketch as part of a demonstration at a talk I did at a local art group the other day. Basically I did the sketch using some ink, so I'll just show you how I did that. I have done other videos before using the ink and the Brusho together. But I did that little sketch sort of upside down because I was demonstrating, so it was a bit tricky. So basically it's just some tree shapes very quickly with the ink, using the stopper from the bottle. I then very lightly, whilst it was wet, using a spray bottle, give it a spray from a good height, very gently. So you've just got a bit of water on the paper and not too much. And then I sprinkle the Brusho on. I mean, this is a different colour, but you get the idea. So that's how I did the original one. So just pop that out of the way. And I did it on this Archer's hot pressed, which is one I use quite a lot. So it's just a small one, about a size A5. Okay, so I did this as a demonstration, just as I showed you there, with two colours. There's a blue and a yellow. I think it was the lemon yellow, and it's a few days ago now, so I can't really remember, but a bit of a cobalty blue, I think. And I thought, actually, it needs a bit more contrast in it. Now, some of the people there the other night were asking me about keeping your Brushos after you've finished them, about whether you should put a glaze over them or, you know, a varnish, what you should do, and about whether they reactivate. Well, they do reactivate, so if you put water on that now, it's going to reactivate. So you really need it to be framed behind glass and keep it away from damp once it's done. So when you've finished, just excuse me one moment, I'll just have a look over here. You want to get a nice soft big brush like that. When it's completely dry, so this was done a few days ago, but it's completely dry, to dust off any extra powder that there might be there, because once you come to frame it, if you've got loose powder there, it will fall down in your frame and make a mess. So that's one thing you need to do, and I do put a fixative on. So I use either a cheap hairspray. Now if you use an expensive hairspray, the expensive hairspray has something in it which doesn't do your paintings any good. So it's more archival if you use a cheap hairspray that doesn't contain that. So go for the cheapest hairspray you can get. Take it outside, do it very lightly from a distance, and give it 2 or 3 thin coats rather than one big thick coat. Or you can use something like a pastel fixative that you might have as well. Okay, so what I was going to do, so really I just wanted to talk through that, really, the fact that you need to keep it dry, it will reactivate, you need a fixative and you need it behind glass really if you want it to last. As far as how archival Brushos are, which some people sort of debate about, it's not been around long enough to see, you know, whether it's going to last hundreds of years or anything like that. But I've had paintings that I've done several years ago that are still as bright as they were when I did them. And I think the main reason for that is because they are behind glass. Obviously you don't want to hang them in the same way that you would with watercolours. You wouldn't want to hang them in direct sunlight. So if you are selling Brusho paintings, what I would advise is that you put a little note on the back saying not to put them in direct sunlight, which is pretty self-explanatory, just the same you would do with watercolours. Now, to make this a little bit darker, so first of all I'll just show you how easy it is to reactivate it. So we've got these little bits down here, bit of water on your brush, you know, and you're soon bringing that colour out again. And it's useful because sometimes you may want to sort of alter things a little bit. Like here we've got a little light area. You might want to just smooth some of that off, make a bit more of a grassy area there, a bit more tone. So you can see it's not loads of colour, but it's still moving around, especially where it's thicker here. So if you look here where it's really thick, so you can imagine if that painting got damp, how soon it would spoil. Actually that looks quite nice in the sky, just giving some little areas. So you've got a bit of difference of texture there as well. So it does mean that you can carry on working on your paintings, you know, a few days later. when you come back to them. So the reason for coming back to it today was I really felt it needed more contrast in these tree trunks. So I'm going to mix together some brown and some ultramarine, which gives you a really nice dark colour, and it's a nicer colour than using just black really. That's a little bit on the blue side, I'll add a bit more brown to that. The ultramarine is quite a strong colour, but very pretty actually. Again, I think we still need a little bit more brown. So back to the Brusho being archival, I do believe that Colourcraft themselves have had some paintings that they've been there, you know, several years in their office, and they're still nice and bright. So I'm just filling in one or two of these trunk areas and putting some extra branches in just to get it a little bit darker and a bit more structure as well really. So when you're painting trees, if you have a nice point to your brush, as you go along, lift your brush and take the pressure off, and then you get a nice tapered end. And I think that's, you know, we don't want to overdo it, it's probably going to be enough really. Just adding those few extra little bits of trunk with that darker colour. And I think as the light's coming this way towards us, this area at the bottom will be in much more shadow. So I'm just going to take the brush and drag some of that colour down into that and try and get that a bit more. In fact, if I wet the whole thing, just to get a bit more shadow under these trees at the base. Give us more contrast throughout the whole painting there then. And just to finish, I'm just going to put, again to make it extra dark, just put a little touch of the brown straight from the pot and an extra touch of the ultramarine, and then leave that to mix now. If you carry on messing around with that now, you're going to find you end up with it going really muddy. Leave it to dry, and if it needs anything else doing to it, then you can do that once it's dry. You can see here this is sort of bleeding out a little bit, so it looks a bit as if we've got something going on with that trunk, but then again it could be, you know, a knot or something, so you could maybe paint something around that later on once it's dried. Okay, so very short video today, I'm sorry, but I just really wanted to talk you through the Brusho, how to keep it nice, how to keep it bright. The other thing about putting not a varnish but a spray over it, your hairspray or the fixative, sometimes when your colours have gone a little bit muddy, it does tend to lift the colours a little bit as well. So that's another good reason for using a fixative. But if it's something you haven't used before and a different hairspray, always test it. So put some Brusho on an inexpensive piece of paper and give it a bit of a test before you do it on your finished artworks. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back again soon. Bye for now.